Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Megan, if you forgot, because I've been away for almost 2 weeks now. Today's video I'm going to be baking brownies whilst talking about Black Lives Matter and all the stuff that's going on with that. It may seem a bit random baking brownies with it, but if you stay till the end, there is a message as to why I'm baking as I go. I'll just give a little background of the baking and a background of what I'll say before we start. So I'm making gluten-free, dairy-free and vegan chocolate brownies. It was a recipe given to me by my friend because her mum is like a professional baker. So I was very excited to receive this recipe. And now on to what I'm going to talk about, Black Lives Matter. I'm going to cover a few topics like ways I've educated myself, racism in Durham, and just general stuff about it to try spread awareness, because especially in lockdown at the minute, one of the best things we can do is just use this time to educate ourselves and spread awareness. Every time I saw a creator that hadn't addressed it, I felt a bit uncomfortable. It's like the biggest movement in history and it's not been mentioned. So I did want to make a video about it, but I was hesitant because I've seen a lot of people get backlash over what they've done. So I was hesitant that I'd say the wrong thing by accident, because that would be not what we need right now. If I do say the wrong thing, I just want to disclaim I made this video 100% with the best intentions of just spreading awareness and doing what I can. And even though I've got a very small platform, just using it to the best of my ability. But if I do say something wrong, just let me know politely, please, because I honestly thought so hard about this video and really tried to make it as good as it should be. Lots of creators are doing videos where they like donate all the AdSense to Black Lives Matter causes. I'm not monetized, so this was where I thought I could contribute myself. I hope you find this video informative and it helps. Even if just one person is a little more educated after this video, that would be good. And yeah, just stay to the end to find out why the hell I'm baking at the same time. First of all, I'm boiling water, and then I'm going to put in the butter, which is dairy-free butter. I won't talk you through all the ingredients I use, but the allergy ingredients, I'll talk you through them. And then dairy-free chocolate. The chocolate I'm using actually has orange in it because I just thought that would be a nice little experiment. And I'm just going to mix that whilst it melts. But with this recipe I really went to town to find good ingredients. So I'm using this pure dairy-free butter, which is meant to be perfect for baking. The chocolate I'm using could contain traces of milk, so not suitable if you're severely allergic, but if you're just lactose intolerant, it's not got actual milk in it. So this is just from the co-op. I do stand by the fact that it's not good enough to not be a racist anymore. You have to actively be against racism. So I'll be linking some things down below. I'll also leave some petitions and some donation things down below. Check them out if you haven't already. And I'd also say that if you're struggling to sort of be passionate about what's going on, because it's definitely something to be passionate about, if you're struggling, I definitely just look at the news. Because for me, it was like just a story on the news until I saw actual videos of what's going on in America. It wasn't until I saw that I was like, this is really, you know, a big movement. Just check out the petitions down below and things. And also educate yourselves, if you're from the UK, educate yourselves on racism in UK history and today, because honestly it shouldn't have taken all of this to happen for a lot of British people to learn about the racism and police brutality in our own country. Like, most people didn't know about it till all this happened. It shouldn't have taken this for us to learn about it. So just try to educate yourselves as well. It used to be like, oh, I'm not racist so it's fine, but now like not being racist but not doing anything about racism that does go on is what's got us in this mess now. So because it's not completely stopped, so just try be actively against racism as much you can, and I'll leave some links down below to educate about that. And yeah, I think this is more or less melted now. So now I'm going to put in a lot of caster sugar and gluten-free self-raising flour and cocoa powder also in the bowl. The gluten-free flour I use is this one. It's by Dove's Farm. And now I'm going to pour in our melted chocolate and butter. Okay, as I mix this together, I'm just going to give you some recommendations for the book and film actually. and TV series that I think has taught me the most about modern racism. It's a book called Thug, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. It was really popular a few years ago. If you've not read it, I definitely recommend reading it. I see lots of posts about books to read about modern day racism, and a lot of them are factual and non-fiction and quite grown up. I'm a reader, I love reading, so I would find that interesting, but I understand for a lot of people them books are difficult to relate to. Like, even like when I read non-fiction, it takes me a lot longer and it is harder to relate to. So this one is just it's not like a children's book, it's a young adult book, and I 100% recommend it. It's set in modern times as well. I think when you've got a character that you learn so much about in the first person, it's quite powerful. I'd also recommend the film of that, which is on Amazon Prime, which you have to pay for, but it's 100% worth the money. So relevant in today's world, so 100% recommend that. I'm also watching When They See Us on Netflix, which is good as well, although that's a few years ago. It's a true story set in the 80s. I think that further might feed into like, oh, racism's in the past, so I think it is good to watch a modern day thing as well. I'm planning to watch the 13th, but I haven't yet, but I mean to. Also 12 Years a Slave, just to see the complete inhumanity of racism. Definitely watch them films, get your families to watch them or read them, just to learn a lot more, I suppose. Now I'm gonna pour in soy milk. I'm using the Alpro almond. I'm hoping it won't make a difference. I thought that it said almond, so I bought the wrong milk. It should be 120 milliliters, but if you want them gooier, add a bit more, so mine's gone a little bit over, also because I just cannot read the thing. So and then I'm also gonna pour in 3 tablespoons of oil, and then I'm gonna mix all that together as well. The lighting in here is terrible. I just can't believe that in 2020, it's honestly ridiculous that racism still goes on, and people often say it's in the older generations. I think that's completely false. I've seen many old people hear about what's going on with George Floyd and stuff and be like, why is it still going on? Like, it's such an excuse to pass it over to the older generations, because like the generations that were alive when the slave trade went on and stuff are not still policemen. Like, that's such an excuse. Also going to quickly touch on racism in Durham, because I had a comment on a video a few weeks ago about racism, and because of white privilege, because it's not helping anybody to deny white privilege. I've got it, you know. Because of that, I had no idea racism went on in Durham. Like, I had no idea. I mean, I am a bit of a hermit, so I don't know much what goes on in Durham, but like, you'd think you'd know. And since all of this Black Lives Matter, it's really come out that racism is a massive issue in Durham, a real big issue, which actually, now that I know, does not really surprise me. But there's been a massive petition, which will be linked below, about tackling racism in Durham, and they're really working to solve it, though there's only 114 black students in Durham, which is just ridiculous compared to all the other races we have represented. And I'm sure there's more than that apply, so it's so silly. But yeah, there's a big petition about tackling it, and it was a comment a few weeks ago. Someone was like, have you got any advice for coping with racism in Durham? The only thing I can think is just, if you are a victim of racism, tell the staff, spread the word, don't let it go unnoticed, don't stay silent. The majority of the student body, I would hope, would have your back, and especially with this petition that so much has shone such a light on the issues, the staff are like, should be really pushed to deal with it now. I would say in any society, it's like the dodgy few that are racist. Just pray that you aren't with the dodgy few. I'd say the 2 most important points that I hope this video get across is that A, it's not enough to not be racist, you have to be actively against racism. Because for years the majority of people have not been racist, but the whole issue hasn't been fully tackled because they've not actively been against it. So that's one thing you should definitely take away. And the second thing to take away is stop saying all lives matter, because it's that analogy. If a house is on fire and the fire brigade were watering down the house, the next door neighbor whose house wasn't on fire was like, excuse me, what about my house? Like, it's really silly. It's a really silly thing to say. Third thing I would say is just, let's try to keep the movement going. Let's not have it as one random week after an outrage. Let's keep it going. This is the biggest anti-racism movement ever. I think I read that online, because so many countries were involved. Just keep it going, don't forget about it after this week. And now I'm going to pour this into a tray. The brownie is now in the tray, so I'm going to put it in the oven for 25 minutes. And then I'm going to talk you through some more films just because I've missed out some good films. My brother's just reminded me. The Green Book, because it's sort of in a time where half of America had sort of moved away from racism, but the South was still quite racist. So that's a good film. And 12 Years a Slave, even though that's years ago, if you watch the 13th, that's basically describing how even though it's not the slave trade anymore, it's still very much going on. So 12 Years a Slave is very good to watch, to see how terrible it was then, and then to see that it's still basically going on now. Definitely recommend that. I think genuinely just not making racist jokes even to your friends. I don't know why people did that. If someone's racist to you, not talking racist, like if one of your friends talking racist, calling them out on it, that should definitely be done. Just posting things on Facebook. One thing I've seen is that people are saying like, oh, just because you post on Instagram, you're not helping. I think if you're posting informative things on Instagram, it is helping, because I think the thing that made me most passionate about this is education, learning more about it. And obviously at the minute we're not learning it in school, are we? So if we learn it more from social media, which is where a lot of people learn about things these days, then it is very powerful and the internet is very strong. So I think it is a good idea to keep posting about it, keeping the message in the air, definitely. And also not dissing people. I saw a TikTok yesterday of someone dissing it's like white people posting about Black Lives Matter, and I get it, we don't understand, but we can stand with you and support the movement. Like, you shouldn't, just because we don't understand doesn't mean we can't support the movement. Just do the best you can to support the movement and push racism out, because the fact that people are still today, the fact that, I thought about this last night, the fact that people were ever treated that way because of their race, like literally the people that the slave masters must have looked at black people and must have seen them as inhuman to treat them that way. And that's so disgusting. Like, the way they were treated was inhuman, as though they had no feelings. It's so disgusting. And the fact that it even still goes on today, like, I'm disgusted that it ever happened, but the fact it's still going on today is just ridiculous and just needs to be stopped. And I think the more we learn about how horrible and inhumane it is, the better society will become. And education is key, because you learn about the Holocaust just to stop it happening again. So why don't we learn about racism to stop it still happening? And so it definitely should still be in education, which is a petition also down below. But until then, we should continue to educate via social media and things. Okay, so that is the brownie made. So that's the end of the video now. And I wasn't just baking and talking about racism for the sake of it. I was baking as well to show you that you don't have to stop your life to actively be against racism. You can carry on with your life and be against racism. It doesn't take you hours out of your day to actively be against it. You don't have to drop everything. It's not going to ruin your life. It's not hard. So I've just actively been against it for the past 40 minutes. I made a cake whilst I did it. You don't have to stop everything, you can just weave it into everyday life, and that's what I suggest you do. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. I hope it taught you a few things, and yeah, let's just hope for a better future. See you in the next video.